Rivals 2 goes into early access in only a few days and launches about a week after that. One of the most frequent things I hear from players is, I want to be the best one day, but I'm not able to attend big tournaments, or I really want to get good at this game, but I don't have a lot of friends that play or that I can grind with. Hurdles like this hold so many players back, but that's all they are, just hurdles. In this video, I'll be going over tips and tricks that helped me and many players in my scene overcome these hurdles and get better at the games we play. We'll start small and work our way up to the most advanced tips as we go. I'll have each portion of the video marked, so if there's a certain tip you want to hear about, or some you feel like you can skip, go ahead and start to jump around. Hey there, I'm actually hopping in mid-editing right now. I didn't clarify earlier, but these are tips on how to improve over time. Like if you're a competitor or just someone who wants to get better. These aren't really tips for how to play the game, you know? So if you're looking for that, we do have that. I'm gonna put the playlist up here in the corner. You should see it pop up, and it'll also be in the description, because we do have videos for people who might be coming from Smash Ultimate or who might have never played a fighting game before. So go check those out, but then come right back. Alrighty, let's get started with tip number 1. We'll start super simple. Have fun with the game. Competing, grinding, or even playing online matches can get really frustrating. My biggest tip to combat this is to put the game down and do something else like cooking or maybe go for a walk. Balancing the game with other aspects in your life is super important, since if you invest too much into becoming good at a game, you might lose other parts of yourself over time. You might grow more and more upset at the game, and making sure you're having fun will prevent this kind of burnout and keep time spent with the game productive. Our second tip builds off the first just a bit. Joining a community that also plays the game online or in your local scene will help keep you productive in your gameplay sessions, and allow you to measure your skill against other players. It's not very fun playing fighting games alone, and while grinding ranked is cool, only grinding ranked gets really tiring. Entering online and offline brackets allows you to test new ideas, fight a variety of players at a variety of skill levels, and sometimes win money. Our last stock Discord server runs free Rivals 2 Wi-Fi weeklies every week, but there's tons of Wi-Fi brackets to choose from. I left a link in the description to our server, so if you're looking for people to talk to about the game, or just want to play against new players, or maybe even test out your skills in a free bracket, you should probably check it out. For our third tip, let's talk about the training room. Rivals 2 has a really robust training room with options to change DI, create save states, and have the CPU pick different options. I sadly don't have any footage from it, but not using it would be a huge waste. Some players do like the training room a lot more than others, so how you use it is up to you, but I suggest practicing your bread and butter combos and kill confirms if you're not able to land them in matches. I like to practice character-specific movement since each character has a few different ways to control them. Remember that practicing on your own is just as important as practicing against other players, since at the end of the day, you're the one controlling your character, determining on how well you'll do in bracket. For our fourth tip, let's talk about characters. Finding what playstyle you like is super important. However, there's not a perfect character for everyone. It's okay to split your grinding time between 2 or even 3 characters. I personally really like to play more set play-esque characters like Orcane and Fleet. However, I like to play rushdown characters like Maple when I want to break, or if I'm going against a character like Clarin, since Orcane struggles a lot in that matchup. This helps me balance my time with the game and keep me focused on my bracket characters. Our fifth tip mirrors our fourth just a little bit, but join your character's Discord. Each character has a Discord community built around it. I mean Arcane, and I'm a frequent flyer in their whale watching channel. I love to see the clips and combos from players, since a lot of the times they'll do things that I never thought of. Whenever I'm learning a matchup, sometimes I'll join that character's Discord as well, and ask for tips, or get games with players there too. It's a great way to gain new knowledge surrounding individual characters and the game as a whole. Speaking of watching clips, VOD reviewing is super important. I love watching top level players pilot my main, and I love to take notes on what they do and sometimes don't do. This helps me better refine my gameplay. For example, I saw a few top players hit this sick up tilt combo with Arcane, which changed the way I thought about Arcane's grounded movement. It's also good to VOD review yourself. Since all the last stock local and Wi-Fi brackets are streamed, I'm able to go back and watch my own VODs on this channel. This helps me see all the mistakes I make, and trust me, there's a lot. But it also helps me take note of what I do right on occasion. One small extra tip I have when it comes to VOD reviewing is to get a friend to watch it with you. A lot of times, you know why you picked an option, making it subjective. But since someone else doesn't know why you picked it, they can be much more objective when judging it. We're getting towards the end, so these tips might be a little harder or more complex to implement. For our 7th tip, remember to play with players better than you and ask them for tips. Everyone good at the game was once not so good. No one started playing and was the best right away, so they probably have some kind of insight to help you better your gameplay. One bracket, I kept picking the same ledge option over and over. All it took to fix it was another player pointing it out for me. Tips like this from players better than you will help you optimize your gameplay in ways you probably didn't even consider. However, it can be a bit frustrating to only play with people much better than you. I suggest doing this when you're in the mood for feedback. Sometimes I've had a really long day at work or classes, and I don't really want to be told why I didn't win. But the days I do seek out better players and ask for tips are the days I find myself making the most notable progress. Next up is theory crafting. Thinking about the game theoretically will help you apply the ideas and test them when you do have time to play. We all have jobs in school, as well as a life outside the game. Well, maybe saying all of us is a little bit of a stretch, but I hope most of us do. This means, however, that you can't be practicing 24/7. You can use your downtime throughout the day, like during your commute or when you're getting a shower. Bonus tip, this one's, take it as an extra, it's number 11. If you want to be good, take showers. But you can use this time to think about the game and how you approach it. A good example of this is thinking about matchups. Let's say you have a really hard time getting around Lockstone's big disjoints. You might be able to think through your character's approach and defensive options. Then, when you're able to play, you can test those ideas out and see what does or doesn't work. Obviously, our example is pretty simple, but theory crafting can be applied to all parts of the game, like movement, recovery routes, shield pressure, defensive options, and even combo routes. Moving on to tip 9, let's talk about getting the most out of our time with the game. We kinda already touched on this a little bit. You don't have unlimited time with the game, and a common theme throughout this video has been how to optimize that time. The best way I find to do that is to go in with a set of notes from VOD review, theory crafting, and talking with other players in Discords. Combining these tools that we've already learned will allow you to make the most efficient notes and focus on what you need to improve. For example, I recently saw some really cool arcane movement where you have to slide across the ground. So my notes for the early access build is to work on my ground movement and recovery pathing, as well as tightening up my combos based on what I saw those top players doing. I'm not too focused on defensive play for the first week, since if I tried to split up my attention between learning movement, new combos, and defensive options select, I'd get a lot slower at all of them. But having 1 to 2 topics to focus on per session can really help you improve at an exponential rate. This allows you to also ask more specific questions when playing with players better than you and get more pointed feedback. Our last tip kind of loops back to our first, ironically. Avoid burnout at all costs. Burnout affects so many players, and knowing when to take a few days off from the game is so important to consistency. I know that we've already touched on this, but putting the game down or trying something new never hurts. I have so many players tell me they feel like they have this expectation to always do well, and frankly, that's completely impossible, especially if you find yourself stressed out or angry at the game all the time. Remember that growth isn't linear. One day you might learn 3 new things, and the next you might not learn anything. That's okay. Just stay consistent and you'll get there eventually. If the journey to getting good isn't enjoyable, why would being good be any different? That just about wraps up my 10 tips for improving at Rivals 2. But I guess you could apply these to any fighting game. Don't forget to check out our Discord and join our weekly events. And just because this video is over doesn't mean you have to quit watching. We have a whole Rivals 2 guide playlist stocked full of videos that we update super frequently. We'll have a guide going over the strengths and weaknesses of every character coming out early in the next week, and you won't want to miss it. Until then, see you next time.